The story begins 100 years in the past. The heavens were invaded by the demon king and his army, but the guardian of the gods stood against them, crushing the army by himself. However, there was a traitor among the gods, and the guardian was killed, causing his soul to be split into 72 fragments and spread across the human realm. With the guardian defeated, the demon army flooded the heavens, and the gods tried their best to fight. The gods are overwhelmed, but as a last resort, they used their remaining energy to seal the demons away. But without the gods looking over the world, chaos started to spread, and the only way to restore order is by collecting the 72 pieces of the guardian's soul and using his energy to free the gods. In the present, the world is in chaos, and we see two brothers, Yun and Shen, as they take shelter in a house. But the ground shakes and the house starts to collapse, so Yun puts his brother into a basket, and they manage to get out just in time. Meanwhile, their father Gong fights against an enormous demon, but he struggles against it, and he gets smashed into a pillar. The brothers arrive, wanting to help their father, but the demon suddenly attacks them. Their father manages to block the attack, stunning the demon, and he throws them up onto one of the pillars for safety while he blocks the demon's attack. He transforms his weapon, turning it into a 3-section staff, and wraps it around the demon's hand. He knees the demon in the face and proceeds to strangle it with his weapon, but the demon breaks the chains and sends him into the air. But he kicks the 3 sections of his staff around the demon, and he activates his skill which binds the demon. While it's restrained, he manipulates the surrounding pillars to form a hand and trap the demon. But he knows this won't hold the demon for long, so he runs away with his boys. They make their way to a cave, where they find an area covered with vines. Gong uses a skill to open the heavenly gates of the palace, making the vines recede, and revealing 2 swords on pedestals. They pull the swords out simultaneously, making the pedestals disappear as a gold container emerges before them. Gong gives it to Yun, telling him to give it to his brother when he grows up. His father hands him the other sword, telling him that the 2 swords have been passed down by the demon hunters. Yun doesn't think he is worthy to wield them, but his father says he has been practicing since he was a boy, so he believes in him. The ground shakes, and they realize the demon must have gotten free. They reach a stone bridge in a room filled with lava, and Gong explains it was a spirit room used by past demon hunters. The demon suddenly breaks through the ceiling, and Gong gets caught, but uses an ability that makes parts of the walls crash into the demon. He manages to get free, and he uses another skill to trap the demon into a spherical prison, which then falls into the lava, covering the area in smoke. It looks like they have finally won, but a bell suddenly rings, and Gong is stabbed from behind by a mysterious woman, and the boys start crying, but as a last resort, he decides to send them away, activating his final skill. The woman tries to pursue them, piercing through the barrier and scratching Yun's face, but the boys suddenly disappear as they are transported away. 10 years later, Yun has grown up, and Shen dresses up as a giant lizard monster. We see a man as he is accompanied by a demon hunter into a building. The demon hunter detects the presence of a demon, claiming he can sense the 1,000-year-old gecko demon, and he tells the man to wait outside. The man runs away as the demon hunter summons his weapon. He enchants his beads, throwing them around the room, and he hits the gecko demon. He follows up with another attack, cutting the demon's head off, but the man suddenly panics, asking the gecko why he screwed it up. But Yun appears behind him, knocking him out, and he wakes up tied to a pillar, asking the brothers who they are. Yun threatens him, and the man admits he is actually just a fake demon hunter who has been working with the demon to scam people of their money. He partnered with a weak demon who would haunt buildings, and then he would pretend to hunt it down, and they would split the profits. Shen wonders how people are so easily tricked, and the man says it's all thanks to his handsome face that makes people trust him, saying that Yun's face would never convince people he's a demon hunter because he looks like a bandit. This triggers Yun, so they leave him tied up and dressed in the gecko costume. After that, Shen undergoes his coming-of-age ceremony, since he is now 14 years old. Yun performs the ritual, causing Shen to be surrounded by light, and talismans surround him. The light disappears, and Yun tells him he is now an official demon hunter. Shen questions if he is ready, but Yun tells him to believe in himself, and shows him the gold container their father left to him. Shen opens it, and he finds a tiny iron rod. He wonders what it is used for, and Yun only remembers how their father said it was his destiny. Shen treasures it since it's a gift from his father, and he wears it as a necklace. At that moment, an old man runs to them, asking them to save the town, because there's a mist that has caused people to disappear. He offers them money, but Yun thinks it could be another scam. So he is more interested in continuing Shen's coming-of-age ceremony, ready to show him a good time, but he runs into the old man, who drops his bag, revealing a golden bell, and Yun remembers the woman who killed his father. So they decide to check out the town, which is completely surrounded by mist. While walking around the town, Shen suddenly disappears, as Yun sees a cat demon who talks to him. He asks about the origins of the bell, but the cat starts attacking him. Yun dodges its attacks, and the cat demon attacks him from behind. It uses the mist to disappear and reappear, and it manages to hit him from behind. But Yun spins around, creating a whirlwind that clears the fog around him, and the demon is knocked to the ground. She begs him not to kill her, claiming she will do anything for him, and Yun asks her about the bell. The girl claims she just happened to find it, but she doesn't know where it came from, so Yun tells her to just leave the town. She thanks him for his mercy, but she suddenly lunges at him. However, Yun is prepared, using his backslash technique, and he easily defeats her. But as she disappears, she tells Yun that her brother will get revenge for her by killing Shen. Meanwhile, Shen is attacked by another cat demon, who looks down on him for being a kid. But Shen claims he is no longer a kid, as he prepares to fight. Yun watches from a distance, and calls it a final trial. The cat launches his attacks at Shen, who skillfully evades the attacks as he closes in on the demon. The demon grabs onto his stick, but Shen manages to overpower him, and even land a hit on him, but this makes the demon angry, so he starts fighting seriously, using his speed to attack Shen before he can even react. He breaks Shen's weapon, and Yun thinks about helping him, but his necklace starts to glow, and he grabs onto it, and it transforms into a weapon. Shen throws it at the demon, blowing him away, and releasing a powerful energy wave that can be felt from miles away. The energy even reaches the demon woman, and she realizes that he has finally awakened. The weapon pierces through the demon's chest, but he is still alive, surprised to see the golden staff in his chest. He notices Shen is no longer conscious, so he tries to pull out the staff, but Yun arrives, asking him about the bell as he threatens to kill him. The bell rings, and the demon becomes hypnotized, so he reveals that a woman named Samir gave it to them, knowing the brothers would appear if it rang. Yun asks about Samir, but the demon says it's none of his business, as he starts repeating his mission to kill the demon slayers and snatch the soul fragment. The bell starts spinning wildly, and it enters the demon's mouth, causing him to explode. The explosion is caught by two people, who seem to be from a more advanced civilization, who head for their teleporter to check it out. Shen wakes up, and Yun tells him he did a good job. He retrieves the golden staff, but it transforms back into its tiny form. The duo from the advanced civilization arrive, telling them the staff doesn't belong to them. They scan the artifact, confirming that it is their target, and calling it the Shenzhen staff. The duo approach the brothers, but Yun is in no condition to fight, because he suffered some internal injuries from the explosion. Shen tries to talk to them, but the girl tells him to hand over the staff. Yun tries to stop them, but he is easily defeated. The girl threatens to kill them, but they still refuse to hand it over, calling her a pig head because of her mask. The girl becomes angry, but her companion stops them, saying they have no ill intentions. He uses their technology to heal Yun's injuries, surprising him as he realizes that even his internal injuries are gone. Yun asks them why they want the artifact, and the girl claims that the staff has always belonged to them. We learn that the staff was once used by the Guardian, the strongest warrior amongst the gods. They introduce themselves as the envoys of the fairy clan, Sorrow and Shu. Shu removes her mask, and the brothers think she is cute. Sorrow explains how the staff was lost after the Guardian was assassinated 100 years ago. He reveals that their goal is to find the 72 fragments of his soul, to break the seal on the space where the gods are trapped. He says the staff is the key to finding the soul fragment, because it has the ability to sense the traces of God. Yun thinks it's a clue to finding the demon that killed their father, so he doesn't want to give up the staff. He asks them how they can be so sure that the artifact is really the Shenzhen staff, and Sorrow tells them about how it produced energy waves when it was awakened, which spread throughout the 6 realms. Sorrow warns them that the demons would have also felt it. He explains that the demon King Mara and his army were also sealed away with the gods, so he thinks the demons will also be making a move to free him. Yoon doesn't trust them, but Shu tells them that if they don't free the gods, the world will continue to be in chaos, and if the demons break the seal first, the world will also be doomed. Shin decides to trust them, giving them the staff, and Yoon supports his brother's decision, thinking it will keep Shen away from danger. As they leave, Shu thinks they are trying to trick her with a fake, since it has turned to iron, but when Shen takes it back, it becomes golden again. Shu is confused at what is going on, and Sorrow reveals only a pure heart can wake it up, and it has acknowledged Shen as its new honor, so they have no choice but to bring them along, and the brothers agree to go, thinking it must be fate. They claim the reward from the old man, and they look at the staff which points them in the direction of the next fragment. Sorrow summons a ship, and they all board it to begin their journey. They travel through the desert, and we see a strange woman named Ying, who passes out on the ground. The ship detects her, and performs an emergency evasive maneuver, causing the ship to go flying off to the side. Shu wonders what's going on, and the ship tells them about the woman it detected. Yoon looks around, seeing a woman in the middle of the desert, and he rushes to help her. She passes out in his arms, and he sees a wound on her body, so he carries her back to the ship, but Shu stops him, telling him not to let a stranger in. Shu finds the situation strange, while Yoon thinks she's just jealous of her figure, so they begin to argue. Ying is able to enter the ship, and Sorrow asks her how she got injured. Ying says she ran into a group of bandits who tried to kill her, but she was able to get away from them. She asks them to take her back to the Dark Canyon, because she is scared of running into the bandits again. Yoon tells her that they're also going to the Dark Canyon to find fragments, so he thinks fate must have brought them together. Ying is curious about the fragments, and Shen shows her the staff, saying it detected a fragment in the Dark Canyon, but Shu becomes upset because they are telling her everything, and she tells him to put the staff away. Sorrow suggests leaving for the Dark Canyon the next day, as he leaves the room with Shu. While the brothers are sleeping, Ying uses her ring to create some web, trying to take the staff from Shen, but Shen moves his hand, preventing the web from reaching the staff. The door suddenly opens, so Ying returns to her bed, as Sorrow appears after taking a shower, but he realizes he's in the wrong room and he leaves. The next day, Yoon starts looking for Ying, and Sorrow says she seems to have already left. Shen realizes that the staff is now gone, making Shu upset, but Sorrow remains calm. In a flashback, we see Ying in a cave, where she is surrounded by a group of bandits, and her sister Mei has been caught by them. The bandit leader recognizes her as the best thief in the world, so he orders her to steal the Shenzhen staff. Ying knows about the artifact, but she thinks it's just a legend, because people have been trying to find it for 100 years, but none have succeeded. The boss tells her that it's real, claiming nobody was able to find it, because it was sleeping, but now it has awakened. He shows her a soul fragment of the Guardian, claiming it has the power to destroy the entire valley. He activates it, causing the ground to shake, as rocks start flying toward the ceiling. He claims he will be able to control the demons if he has the staff, because it is the strongest divine weapon, and he warns her not to go against him. He promises to let them go if she gets him the staff, but Mei reminds her about her oath to never steal again, knowing she will suffer if she breaks it, so she tells Ying not to go, but one of the bandits interrupts, saying Mei will suffer if she doesn't do it. Ying threatens them about harming her sister, and the boss promises nothing will happen to her if she succeeds. Back in the present, Ying goes to save her sister, while she reprimands the brothers for saving the girl and losing the staff. Sorrow drives them to a certain location, knowing they will find Ying in the area. He tells them they are headed to the spider web cave, showing them the entrance, as he informs them that the passageway inside is complicated, so it is easy to get lost. Sorrow shows them his device, pointing at the signal of the staff, and Yoon is determined to get it back. In the cave, Ying returns to the bandit leader, giving him the staff to save her sister, so he returns Mei to her, who blames herself for the situation, because she went to the valley alone. But Ying is just glad she is okay, and they start walking away. But the bandit suddenly blocks their path, as the boss tells them that they can't leave, saying he has prepared something fun for them. Ying calls him shameless, shooting web with her ring, which she wraps around the boss's legs, taking him down and retrieving the staff. The other bandit charges at her, so she tries to use the staff, scaring the man, but nothing happens, so she just uses her ring to blind him. They start running away, while the two men chase after them, but Mei suddenly trips, telling Ying to leave her behind as the bandits close in. But Ying doesn't leave her, summoning a giant web to trap them, but the boss slices through it and tries to attack them. He ends up hitting the ground, separating the sisters, and Mei tries to kick the scrawny bandit, but he easily catches her leg, while Ying dodges the boss's attack. The scrawny bandit tries to stab her from behind, but she uses her web to pin his hand against the wall. The boss takes another swing at her, but Ying jumps away, trying to hit him with her web. However, he summons rock from the ground, which hits her and knocks her down. Mei checks up on her, and Ying tells her to just run, but the other bandit manages to get free, and he traps them in a barrier. Meanwhile, Saro tells them it will be difficult to precisely locate the staff within the cave, so Yin suggests splitting up, and he takes Shen with him. They run through the cave, and Shen thinks they're going the wrong way, but Yin tells him about the unique scent on Ying. They see the sisters as they are trapped in a barrier. Mei begs the boss not to hurt Ying, saying she will do anything, and he tells her she will be treated well as long as she behaves. The bandit removes the barrier, and the boss slowly makes his way towards them, but Ying attacks with her ring, scratching his face. The boss becomes angry, summoning rock spikes to attack her, but Mei jumps in the way. She is happy to be able to protect her sister, but she passes out. Yun becomes angry, charging with his swords, but the boss blocks his attack. Shen tries to ambush the other bandit with a rock, but the bandit dodges and kicks him away. There is suddenly an explosion, which creates an opening in the cave, and they are joined by Shu and Saro. Shu fires her cannon at Ying, but Yun blocks the blast, deflecting it into the ceiling. The brothers try to stop Shu from shooting again, telling her she should be targeting the bandits. They see a barrier surrounding the bandits, and they notice how the bandits are using the power of the soul fragment, saying they have absorbed it into their bodies. Shu wants to destroy them, but Yin gets in the way, telling the sisters to run. The boss claps his hands, causing his men to appear, and he orders them to attack. The bandits charge at them, but Saro uses his tornado magic and blows them all away. The bandit leader tries to kill Shen, but Yin gets in his way, telling Shen to run with the sisters. Shu extends claws from her cannon, and she pushes the boss back. Saro uses magic to create a thunder cloud, and the scrawny bandit tries to create a barrier, but Shu punches him away, while Saro summons a thunderbolt and electrocutes the boss. The brothers help the two girls get away, and Ying apologizes for lying to them, but Shen tells her it's not her fault, knowing she did it for her sister. The bandit boss gets back up, attacking with his fists, while Saro jumps back, using a fire spell on the boss. But he creates a rock shield, reflecting the flames back onto Saro. Shu comes to his rescue, clashing with the boss, and they are both pushed back. The boss starts using the power of the soul fragment, which is revealed to be only a small portion of the fragment's power, but it is still a threat to them. The boss launches rocks at them, while Saro creates a water shield, but it is not strong enough, so they jump away as Shu fires her cannon. The boss uses a rock to make the projectile explode in midair, but it breaks into smaller projectiles, causing an explosion around the boss, and he uses a rock shell to defend himself. He starts to think he's invincible, but he doesn't realize he is standing in water, and Saro uses his lightning on it, electrocuting him while Shu fires her cannon, and the boss is defeated. They retrieve the soul fragment from his body, and they escape from the cave before it collapses. Meanwhile, we see the brothers with the two girls, but the scrawny bandit suddenly lunges at them. Shen tackles him away, but the bandit immediately gets up, wanting to attack Shen, but Yun interferes. The bandit dodges Yun's attack and counters with a kick, pushing him back. Tentacles appear behind the bandit, attacking Yun as they exchange blows. The bandit jumps, launching his tentacles at Yun, who barely evades the attacks. Yun is at a disadvantage, so Shen grabs onto the bandit, while Yun dashes toward him, but the bandit traps Yun inside a barrier as he kicks Shen away. Yun slashes at the barrier as the bandit uses petrification magic on him, slowly turning him into stone. Shen pounds on the barrier until his fist starts bleeding, but it does nothing, and the bandit pushes him to the side. Shen starts to cry, thinking he is useless, but at that moment, the staff starts glowing, and Shen grabs onto it, transforming it into its true form. He uses it to break the barrier, and also reverses the petrification spell. The bandit kicks him away, grabbing onto the golden staff, but it immediately transforms into a small iron stick. He tries to turn it back into the golden staff, but his arm gets sliced off as Yun's petrification has been completely dispelled. They begin to exchange blows, but the bandit notices Yun's speed improving, reminding him of a certain warrior. Yun manages to land a hit on the bandit, making him fall to his knees. But the bandit knows that demon hunters can't kill humans. Yun says he doesn't deserve to be a human, but the bandit laughs, telling Yun how he reminds him of the Twin Blade Hunter, thinking Yun must be his descendant. He says that over a dozen years ago, he was ordered by his master to find the Twin Blade Hunter, and they ended up fighting. Yun wants to know more about the hunter, but the bandit suddenly hears the ring of a bell and ends up dying, releasing the soul fragment from his body. Back in their ship, Saru tries to heal Mei with his magic, but her injury is just too severe. Ying thinks she is going to die, but Saru suggests sacrificing her body to seal her soul, so that when the gods are freed, she can be resurrected in another body. Ying accepts his idea, and Saru seals her sister's soul into her ring, and she feels as though her sister is still with her. Meanwhile, Shen wonders why he has been chosen, seeing himself as incompetent because he couldn't save anyone, but Yun reminds him of how he saved him from the bandit, saying he has potential. He tells him that Mei can still be saved if they can collect all the fragments and free the gods, so he tells him not to lose hope. They return to the ship, and the fragments are absorbed into the staff. Ying asks to join them on their quest, wanting to do what she can for her sister, and Yun is happy to have her on the team as they continue on their journey to save the world. They arrive in an industrial city, but Shen is not feeling well, and the heat is making things worse. Yun asks Saru if he can help his brother, but he tells Yun not to worry, saying this is what happens when the staff absorbs the fragments, and that Shen should feel better after they get medicine from the sage's shop. They enter a strange store, which is full of women's clothes, but the shopkeeper approaches Shu, recognizing who she is. He mentions how the immortals have rarely visited his store after the celestial realm was sealed, so he was forced to sell other goods to survive. He activates a secret switch, transforming his store into one that caters to immortals. Shu immediately demands a sensu bean, so he quickly finds it for her, and she shoves it down Shen's throat. Yun wonders what they gave his brother, and the shopkeeper explains that the sensu bean reduces the discomfort caused by the overload of magic power, and it even has healing properties. Yun is impressed and wants to buy a bag of them, but the shopkeeper tells him it costs 2 billion won. Yun doesn't have that kind of money, but Saru offers to pay, revealing he has trillions of won in his account. Shu wonders why the city has gotten hotter, and the shopkeeper tells her about a meteorite that fell from the sky 100 years ago. He says the climate has been hotter ever since, and it now serves as the industrial furnace of the city. Saru thinks it will slowly cool down, but the shopkeeper tells them that the whole city needs it, and he mentions Faizan, who is the actual ruler of the city. Shu wonders why he doesn't stand up to him, but the shopkeeper says Faizan is a high-level demon that is even a threat to fairies. Saru asks Shen to spin the staff around, so he gives it a go, and it allows Saru to see that the meteorite is responding to the staff, so he concludes that there is a soul fragment in the meteorite, but the rod falls as the necklace breaks. As Shu is about to leave with Saru, Yun volunteers to go with them, but Shu warns him it won't be like anything he has faced before, but Yun is determined to go. He leaves Shen with Ying, and he leaves to join the others. They reach their location, and Saru opens a map, revealing that Faizan is on the top floor of the building. While Shu and Saru discuss their plan to reach the top floor, Yun breaks into the building, calling out to Faizan, and this alerts everyone to their presence. Back at the shop, Shen gets a vision of the Guardian as he stood against the demons. He used his staff against them, destroying them with ease, but the demon King Mara attacks with an energy blast, piercing his chest and scattering his soul fragments across the human realm. Shen realizes they now have 2 of those fragments, which they got from the bandits they defeated. The bandits' spirits tell him he's weak, but if he uses the power of the Guardian, his power will be unrivaled. They tempt him to sacrifice his soul to receive the power, but he refuses the offer, causing the rod to shine brightly. It transforms into a giant staff, emerging from the ground, as the voice of the Guardian tells Shen his soul and spirit will become one with him. Shen regains consciousness, but he panics as he sees Ying so close to him, so he accidentally drops the staff. Ying picks it up, and she shows it to the shopkeeper. When she returns, she has fixed his necklace, replacing it with some silver thread. Meanwhile, the trio takes out the enemies, and they reach a hall full of a woman's portrait, where Phison makes his appearance. Yoon charges at him, but he activates his fire skill, forcing Yoon to fall back. Phison is happy to see Shu and Sorrow, seeing them as worthy opponents, as he walks toward them, ready to take them on. He knows they are after the soul fragment, revealing it's in his body, as he challenges them to take it by force. Yoon lunges at him, but Phison uses a fire barrier to defend himself, and strikes back, calling forth a pillar of fire. However, Yoon stands his ground, as his swords absorb the flames. Seeing this, Phison uses a fire blast to blow him away, and Sorrow catches him as he falls. Sorrow warns Phison that the fire in his body could react with the meteorite and bring disaster to the city, so he suggests giving up his soul to prevent this, but Phison says he can just use the blood of immortals to solve the problem. Sorrow realizes he is planning to use a forbidden technique, asking him where he will move the meteorite. Phison reveals he is planning to smash the Immortal Palace into pieces, so Shu takes out her cannon, firing at him, as he defends using a shield. He attacks Shu with his fire whip, wrapping it around her cannon, and causing it to overheat. Sorrow tries to cool it down with some water, but it doesn't work, so she is forced to throw it away. Phison launches a fireball at Shu, but Yoon defends her, telling her to return to the shopkeeper. Shu and Sorrow retreat, as lava erupts from the industrial furnace, causing everyone to panic. Phison rains fire at Yoon, who throws his sword at his opponent and appears behind him, managing to land an attack, but it turns out to be an illusion. Phison wraps his whip around Yoon's leg, smashing him against the ground. Phison is about to finish him off, but Sorrow returns, conjuring an ice wall and allowing them to escape. Phison sees blood on the ground, and he uses it to begin his ritual, launching the meteorite off the ground. As it pierces the sky, Sorrow notes that its structure has changed over the last century, so it will likely shatter before it reaches the Immortal Palace, and the fragments will rain upon the city. At that moment, meteorites fall from the sky, threatening everyone, and the trio makes their way back to the shop to find a solution. Ying and Shen run for shelter, but Shen sees a girl crying, so he rushes to her, telling her to take shelter with him, but a nearby building crumbles, and they are about to get hit by the debris. But Ying uses her web to save them, and they all make it to the shelter. Shen is worried about his brother, but the shopkeeper assures him he has already taken a sensu bean, so he just needs time to recover. The shelter begins to fall apart, making everyone worried, as the shopkeeper tells them about the core of the industrial furnace, which can help control the heat, but he doesn't know where it is. Sorrow thinks it could be the key to ending the catastrophe, but the shopkeeper knows it's heavily guarded, so the group thinks Ying could steal it. Ying remembers her oath to never steal again, but the shopkeeper states that the core is a weapon of the immortals, so it wouldn't be called stealing, since they are just taking it back. Ying infiltrates the building, taking out the officers in charge of surveillance, and using the cameras to locate the secretary. She ambushes the secretary, trying to interrogate her, but she fights back, wrapping her tie around Ying's arm before launching an attack. But Ying uses her web to restrain the secretary, and she continues her interrogation, asking her about the core. Meanwhile, the shelter continues to fall apart, as Phison throws fireballs, telling the fairies to come out. Shu brings out her cannon, as she thinks about buying time until Ying returns, and Sorrow joins her in the plan. Back in the building, Ying's interrogation is successful, and she makes her way to the core, but she activates an alarm, causing a large robot to block her path. Destruction spreads throughout the city as Phison walks around. In a flashback, we see a red-haired girl trying to stop a thief, when he suddenly pulls out a knife. Phison stops the thief, knocking him down, and he checks up on the girl. They start dating, and they eventually get married, but one day, war breaks out in the higher realms, and fire rains upon the city. He sees the giant meteorite as it descends from the sky, and it ends up hitting the building where his wife is. Back in the present, Shu and Sorrow confront him, and they start fighting, as he blames the immortals for his fate. He casts a fire blast, which Sorrow tries to block with an ice barrier, but it ends up breaking. The golden staff suddenly falls in front of them, shielding them as Shen joins the fight. Shen implores Phison to stop, telling him that everyone is suffering, and the city will end up becoming a ruin like it did 100 years ago. Phison starts crying, as he remembers when he saw his wife's body buried under the rubble. It was then that he found the soul fragment, giving him the powers that he has now. He reveals he wants to get revenge on the Immortals for causing the destruction 100 years ago. And Sorrow explains that during the war, the Demon King tried to destroy the Immortal Palace with a meteorite, but they created a protective field to change its trajectory, causing it to fall to the lower realm. Phison claims that the Immortals don't value human lives, as he throws a fireball at Shu, but Shen protects her with his barrier. Shen tells him that if he destroys the city, he is no different from the Immortals, saying he can't change the past. But this causes him to transform into a wolf monster, and he throws a punch, blowing Shen away. Meanwhile, Ying defeats the robot, and she walks to the core, trying to grab it with her web, but it doesn't work, as her web gets frozen. Phison is about to breathe fire, but he feels a certain energy, which makes him realize they are after the core. He becomes enraged, throwing a fireball which causes a massive explosion, before he makes his way back to the core. Shen protects them with his barrier, and they think about stopping Phison, but Shu is in no condition to go. Shen volunteers to go after him, so Sorrow tells him to save Ying, as he uses a teleportation spell on him. The wall around the core breaks, so Ying hides, as a strange man makes his entrance. He takes the core with his hand, which starts to freeze, but it's stopped thanks to the armor he's wearing. At that moment, Phison arrives, telling him to put it down. They start fighting, grappling with each other, but neither of them are backing down. The man explains the core is a gift for his sister, as he transforms into a massive bull, overpowering Phison. The man drives his claw through Phizon's chest, defeating him, and the soul fragment comes out of his body. The man takes the fragment, putting it in a box along with the core. He sees the meteor descending upon the city, wanting to see how powerful it is. But at that moment, the box is knocked out of his hand, as Shen extends his staff. The man grabs onto it, but he realizes his life force is being absorbed, so he quickly pulls it away, charging at Shen with his axe, but Ying saves him in the nick of time. The staff keeps absorbing his life force, so he ends up cutting his arm off. He decides to retreat, using a strange stone, and he teleports away. The giant meteor is about to destroy the city, but Phison tells Shen he can stop it by breaking the core. So Shen takes his staff and strikes the core, causing the city to be covered with ice, freezing the meteor and causing it to shatter. Phison cries as he realizes he failed his wife, but his wife's soul appears before him, telling him he protected the city, hugging him as he passes away. The group continues their journey, as they make their way to a river that can heal Yun's wounds. They arrive at a seemingly abandoned desert town, where they suddenly experience a power malfunction. Sorrow goes to check it out, and the brothers think Sorrow has been behaving strangely. Shu reveals the town used to be a trading area with the people around, and Sorrow's army was stationed in the mine area, but she refuses to go on, not wanting to expose him. Yun thinks they should support him, so the brothers go to Sorrow, who tells them he doesn't need help, explaining that the ship's power crystal is broken, so they should look for a replacement in the nearby mine. However, he claims the situation in the mine is complicated, so he wants to go alone. Yun offers his help, but Sorrow tells him not to get in his way. We learn that Sorrow was sent on a mission to investigate the mines with his team. His teammates joke around as they make their way to the mines, and we see his teammate holding onto a certain helmet, which is the same as the one he now finds in the sand. Shen starts to get worried, because Sorrow is taking a long time to return, so he asks Shu to track his location. Yun says Sorrow will probably run away if anything bad happens, but Shu tells him to shut up, because he has no idea what Sorrow has been through. As Sorrow walks to the mine, he remembers his teammates, and in a flashback, we see his team entering the mines. They look for the human miners that have gone missing, but it's too dark, so one of them lights up the area, revealing miner helmets scattered around the area. They see a hole that leads to the underground mine, and Sorrow checks out the map, seeing vital signs underground, so they think the miners must be hiding there. His teammates sense the danger, saying they are not equipped for combat, but Sorrow reminds them about their mission, ordering them to prepare for battle. His team jumps into the hole, and they blast zombies as they see them. Sorrow thinks they are the missing miners, but there's too many of them, so they start running away. The zombies block their path, so his teammate throws grenades and tells them to take cover. The zombies are taken out, but one of them gets injured, and as they walk away, the blood on the ground forms a sigil. They reach a safe spot, where they use some cables to send a message to HQ, requesting backup. However, as they send the message, the wall behind his teammate breaks and he suffers a fatal injury as a monster appears behind him, which they recognize as the corpse-reaping beast. Back in the present, Yoon knows about the beast, saying it's a powerful monster that eats corpses, which is a threat even to the immortals. Shu adds that it can only live in the dark demon realm, so it's not even supposed to be in the mines. Shu tracks Sorrow's location, and we see he is now gathering crystals, but he notices he is standing on a sigil. He recognizes it as a formation to open the demon realm's passage, which is activated by the blood of an immortal. This explains how the monster was able to enter the mines, and he realizes that his team was the sacrifice for the formation. The beast appears before him, so he prepares for battle as he remembers how his team was killed by the monster. Sorrow tried to save his friend, but he tells Sorrow to complete the mission, knowing he can't be saved. However, Sorrow tried to fight the monster, crushing it with a stone pillar, but it had no effect. Sorrow collapses, but his friend steps forward, sacrificing his life to trap the monster. Sorrow gets a vision of his teammates, and he cries as he apologizes for failing to protect them, but they tell him not to give up, saying it's not time for him to join them, telling him to find the truth behind the formation. Sorrow wakes up as Shen calls out to him, and he sees the others fighting against the monster. Shu blasts it with her cannon, but it has no effect, so Sorrow tells Shen to protect everyone with his barrier as he traps the monster in a formation. Shen wonders if he is planning to sacrifice himself, and Sorrow says he doesn't want to lose any more friends. The others continue to gang up on the monster, but it just throws them away. Sorrow approaches the monster, preparing to sacrifice his life, but Shen stops him and uses his staff to blow a hole in the ceiling. With the monster exposed to sunlight, it quickly crumbles, and everyone makes it out alive. Sorrow honors his fallen comrades as he vows to discover the truth behind the sigil, and he joins the group as they continue their journey to gather the soul fragments. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.